Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to another LaJewa Quick Take webinar, where we ask for just a small investment of your time every other Friday and hope to deliver a big payoff in information. My name is Wayne Newitz. I am with LaJewa and thrilled to be both your host and presenter for today's event. Those who follow our Quick Takes are used to me just being the MC. Well, I have the honor today of delivering our topic of warehouse labor planning for high volume fulfillment. This is, I think, a pretty darn timely topic for us. It's July. We all know what that means. Christmas in July, meaning now is the time to start thinking about peak season, the holiday season, and being staffed up for that. So let's dive right into it, shall we, folks? And I'll begin with a little bit of caution, I suppose, to put it mildly, about the numbers. No surprise to anyone listening or who's been paying attention at all to really almost any industry of late. There is a labor shortage in general, and we are feeling it. Manufacturing and warehousing especially are feeling the pinch. Here are, for example, some of the numbers that are being reported. 61% of warehouse operators right now know that they need to and are planning to add to existing staff, and that's today. We're not even talking about handling peak volume here in a fast approaching holiday season. Interesting also to this statistic is that of these folks, 8 of 10 of these operators have no real hope that they're going to achieve those staffing goals, which is really unfortunate. So there's that. Add to this the fact that about 3/4 of operators are reporting they simply cannot source enough labor, leading to this 8 out of 10 feeling a bit of anxiety and a bit of a need to look for alternate solutions, perhaps technology and automation, things to help complement and supplement the labor issues that they're having. But of those, however, who are not able to source enough labor, and that's 3/4 of the operators out there. Hopefully, that's none of you listening. But of those, just shy of half of them are reporting that they're not addressing what has been shown are the 2 biggest requirements, concerns, issues in where both not only warehouse associates, but in the general labor pool right now, and that's flexible scheduling, career path development. So do bear that in mind when you're developing out your recruiting and retention plans. And finally, 60% churn rate. This is not good, obviously. Churn, of course, what this means is you start with 100 people at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, you're going to have 40 of those people left. Not a very sustainable long-term business model. Yes, in some positions, there's going to be higher churn, especially as you talk about more manual work. It's going to happen. However, 60% is way past the red line. In fact, for the Warehousing Education and Research Council, the point at which you are pushing the red line is 40% churn. In fact, best in class, 4.7% churn. One thing I will mention, if you do not know what your churn rate is for your staff, that's step 1 here. Know what it is, see where you stand, and then see what type of problem you're dealing with. So this is a situation, folks, that we've got as an industry, as folks in logistics and in warehousing. Again, probably didn't need to go to such detail explaining the problem that I'm sure all of us are facing right now. So we're very familiar with it. So what do we do? Well, in the short amount of time we're asking of you today, we want to quickly talk about 3 key areas. Building a staffing plan seems very obvious, but there's some key points to talk about there. Streamlining your processes to impact your labor situation. And then finally, how deploying technology is going to help, but with a bit of a twist to that. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Let's get right into our first topic, and that is your staffing plan and building a plan. Obviously, you probably have one, although in many cases, the staffing plan is, well, Joe or Sally just quit. We've got to backfill them. The plan obviously should be a bit more proactive, future looking, right? And it all starts with knowing your roles. Now, on the right-hand side here of your screens, you can see the obvious, some of the obvious warehouse associate roles that you'll need to fill. The important thing here is that you may know these roles very well, but the folks who are doing your recruiting for you, who are assisting in this, they may not. So be sure that anyone you're working with, recruiting firms, staffing agencies, they understand the types of roles that you're looking to fill and the specific requirements associated with those roles. Obvious but important thing to state. All right, estimating your labor hours and your shifts, and that's really, kind of where we're getting down to brass tacks here. This is, the answer here, unfortunately, of course, like with most things involved with labor, is it depends when it comes to how, what your labor estimates are going to look like. It depends on the size of your warehouses, depends on the types of products you process, the complexities of your operations, for example, the amount of kitting that you've got to do, special instructions for shippings, etc. But you need to factor all of these things in, and that comes back to benchmarking. It's something we're going to talk about again in our next segment, but benchmarking is very vital. Benchmarking and forecasting. So you should be able to go back in time, see the labor that was required to fulfill certain levels of order volumes, and then use that to project out your future labor needs, factoring in projected growth and also projected changes to your product mix that you're dealing with. All right, moving on, accounting for seasonality. Another fairly obvious statement, peak season is coming, we've got to staff up, right? However, one interesting point about seasonality I'll make, and you may hear of this, there have been a lot of reports lately about how peak season, or Q4 of the calendar year, is no longer necessarily the peak season. In fact, it only accounts for, in recent data that was published, about a little over 26% of online retail sales during the year, meaning essentially peak season is all year long. I think we are somewhat experiencing that as an industry, but that does not take away the importance of being able to perform with great efficiency and the ability to delight customers during that all important holiday peak season. The whole quarter may level out, but that period of time is very important to account for. So you may have the last thing I'll say on this point, you may have other aspects to your seasonality depending on where you are, the products that you offer, the clients that you're serving, as that's a 3 or 4 PL, and even your geography, where you are in the country, will affect your seasonality. School starts and stops at different times. These may have a big impact on your order volumes, depending again on the types of product SKUs that you're carrying. So seasonality can be more complex than just let's hire up for peak season. Last thing on this, again, obvious but important, especially when working with outside firms to help with your recruiting, make sure you're anticipating all your training and certification requirements. The obvious ones, forklift operators, etc. Of course, will happen. They need to happen. They will happen. However, be prepared, especially as you enter into potentially new business, serving new businesses, new industries. New materials that you are bringing into your warehouse may require material handling certifications. Be sure that you're on top of that, aware of that, and being proactive in maintaining these records should you ever be audited. Okay, so that is building a staffing plan. Seems pretty basic, but there are a lot of things to consider. Let's hop right into the next topic, folks, of streamlining your processes. May seem a little bit of, that I put the cart before the horse here. You may think, well, shouldn't you first get your processes fixed, then hire to meet those processes? Yes and no. The reason I wanted to begin with the staffing plan is, regardless of processes, which can take some time to change and implement, new ways of working, right? You need to have a staffing plan today, probably yesterday, if you don't already. So that's why I wanted to lead off with that. But your processes in your warehouse and how they change over time will absolutely affect the number of folks that you need, clearly. So let's talk a little bit about that. First, your customer mix. I bring that up because more and more we are seeing folks who may have traditionally served more of a B2B market, moving pallets through their warehouse, are now adopting more of a or adding into their operations more of a high volume direct to consumer operational aspects. So they're having now to manage what can be seen as almost two different types of businesses, a B2C and a B2B oriented operation. It's important for you to know how your operations are likely going to change and how that customer mix is going to change. Needless to say, if you're B2B, more B2B focused, you're likely going to need fewer staff, but they're going to likely need more certification and training, heavy equipment, of course, being the key driver there. If you are, the more you move into a higher volume operation, the more human capital, human resources you are going to need, particularly in the heavy picking and packing areas or functions with respect to labor. So be sure you know how your business plan moving forward and your mix of B2B to B2C is going to change. Make sure you're factoring that into your planning. Let's move on now into product mix. And this isn't necessarily just the type of products that you're warehousing and shipping, but also the way that they are being ordered. For example, multi-item orders. They're going to require much more processing time in general for scanning, picking, and packing than if you're typically more single item order operation. So plan accordingly, labor hour wise. You may ask, great, very good general advice, Wayne. Where do we get more information on how to specifically do that? We actually do have a great resource for you. If you visit our website, legiwa.com, go to our resource page, you'll find a warehouse labor planning guide there. I recommend you take a look at it and see if it can help you. All right, let's move on now to what I think is potentially has one of the most biggest impacts on labor, your labor and staffing, which is having intelligent picking and packing algorithms. As mentioned before, again, no surprise, these functions in your warehouse, especially high volume warehousing, are going to be your biggest labor draws. And we've recently conducted a survey where if you implement intelligent, smart picking algorithms versus more traditional cluster picking or even more simplistic picking methodologies, cluster picking versus smart batch picking, just those two compared, smart batch picking will give you 65% increase in order volume processing. It's rather dramatic to see. So again, this can be a whole topic for a quick take. In fact, it has been. So I encourage you all to go to our YouTube page, a YouTube channel, and check out all of our quick take recordings where we did specifically go into picking and packing optimization. Moving on, warehouse layout, very important. When you are planning, if you're launching a new warehouse, when you're planning the layout, knowing where best to put product when it is in the receiving process, putting it in places where your most popular or promotional items are nearest to your packing stations, for example. Making those type of decisions are very important, as you can imagine. And also, I wanted to specifically call out the use of put walls for operations, again, specifically high volume operations, and in particular, high volume operations with many SKUs to manage. Put walls can be a dramatic efficiency tool for you. Again, could be a whole nother topic for a quick take. And again, it has been. So encourage you to take a look at that, folks, to learn more about how put walls as part of your warehouse layout can really save in labor. The last thing, again, benchmarking. As mentioned, if you really want to understand what you need, you should be looking at your history of order processing and comparing that to the types of orders you've had, the types of put away processes you've had, and look through your, use benchmarking to look for gaps and improvements in your processes. So moving on now, as we approach the end of our quick take time together, I did want to mention technology, but not the way we typically talk about it as a tool for efficiency in and of itself. We're now talking about technology as a tool for recruiting and retention. I think those of you who have been out looking for staff, that's probably 100% of us, myself included, we were realizing that, especially with younger, more tech savvy oriented folks, having technology on board, being able to show that you are a tech forward company is a great attractor for any role in your warehouse. And it is a great retainer as well, because when you implement technology properly, you create a safer, happier work environment for all of your folks. Some quick technology topics to cover, which you should be considering, and likely many of you are considering all of these and using some of them. Of course, robotics comes first to mind, and of course, we're not near the point where robots are going to replace humans, not even close. However, their ability to complement human activities, reduce walking path times and distances, is dramatic. We have a wonderful case study on this with our colleagues and customers at MPR Logistics. Again, on our YouTube channel, we encourage you to take a look at to see how they have integrated robots to make their staff more productive and happier. Drones. We'll mention drones because I was just realizing that the utility of drones is rather like the utility that my wife has for me. I'm mostly good at getting things in hard to reach places. And honestly, folks, that is what drones are being used for in many warehouses these days. Won't go into much more of that, but if they're not part of your technology plans, again, depending on the type of warehouse you have, something to consider. Barcoding, of course, very basic. I think almost everyone here in attendance is using barcoding in their warehouses, but it's very important. Not only for speed, but also for accuracy, right? And in high volume, accuracy is all important. So making sure that your folks, everything is barcoded, all barcodes are updated, and everyone has up-to-date working scanning devices, hugely important, both for efficiency and for keeping your folks happy. Very frustrating when you cannot find what you need to find, right? Integrated dimensioning and weighing tools. These mean, obviously you need to know what size boxes, you need to know the weight, the weights of what you're shipping. But it's very important, the point I will bring up here, it's very important to have this information integrated into your overall warehouse management system, right? Because then your workflows can proceed seamlessly. Your packers will know in advance what type of boxes to have prepared, for example. And all of your weights will be automatically integrated into your WMS information, which leads to the final point here. And thanks for sticking with me a few minutes over, folks, today. The final point is pulling it all together. Do make sure that you are using systems that WMS systems, warehouse management systems, and that the software that are part of these systems is easy to use, is not going to be an obstacle for your staff, but will be something they're actually excited about using, because there are systems that have many similar functionalities, but there are systems where a lot more work has been put into making them easier to use, facilitating use by all different roles in your warehouse. Be sure when you are looking at upgrading your WMS systems to be looking at ease of use, speed of implementation, in addition to the features and functionalities that a WMS should have. So with that, let's get to our 3 quick takeaways from today's webinar. Number 1, again, talking about building your staffing plan. I encourage everyone to benchmark and use your benchmarked labor and your plans for growth to project out labor into the future and do this by role as well. Know how many people you need in receiving, picking, packing, shipping. Have your plan broken out that way. Number two, your processes are going to define your staffing needs. The more efficient your processes are, not only are you going to mitigate your labor staffing requirements, you're going to have happier, safer staff. They're not going to call out as often. They're going to be there for you when you need them. And then third, technology doesn't only make work easier, it makes finding and keeping workers easier. So keep that in mind as you make your investments or your plans for investments rather in technology for the coming months and years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking with us here during this week's Quick Take. We're going to be back as we always are every other Friday. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Love to have you back for this one. This is a very special Christmas in July Quick Take, tuning up your warehouse for peak season. This is going to go on. I believe we're going to be sending you a link here in the chat, registration link to sign up. You can sign up for this event today. We are going to go over some of the most important things that we have seen warehouse operators do to successfully navigate peak season, and now's the time to start. So hope to see you back for that event in a couple of weeks, folks. Again, any questions, please use the chat. Any requests for more information. And we'd love to talk to you. If you are looking for any advice or counsel with respect to warehouse management system software, love to talk to you. You can ping us on our website anytime. Go right to our request a demo page, and we'll have one of our warehousing experts on the line talking to you. Thanks again for spending your time with us. I wish everyone a wonderful weekend. Be safe and take care of everybody and yourselves. And we'll see you back in a couple of weeks for the next Quick Take. Bye all.